Here's a subject sent in by Patreon supporter Faye Adelstein, and what it's basically about is the California water policy and why this affects everybody else. So to kind of give you some backstory here, so California had just came off of 5 years of drought. I've talked about this before, and part of the problems is big agriculture has really sucked up a lot of the water, and it's not being distributed effectively. And some people are saying, and I think this is what Faye Adelstein's point is in wanting me to cover this, is the Northern California just had these awful fires, and some are saying that because of the misuse of the water, that it helped create that environment. So there's a lot of extensive articles here. I'll put them all in the show notes, and I'll try to formulate an overall policy here and offer even some solutions. So first of all, there is what is going on right now. So this just came out in the LA Times on October 5th about Governor Jerry Brown is trying to lobby for the $17 billion Delta Water Project. And it would re-engineer the Sacramento and San Joaquin Delta, the hub of California's complex waterworks. And so there's a big issue of how we get our water, where it's distributed, and who gets it. And smaller farms feel like they're slighted by big agriculture. And of course, big agro poisons the shit out of the water with all the pesticides and all that stuff. It's why I personally try to always get organic produce to support that industry. So what this one article that's in the LA Times is, I'll quote what Governor Brown says here. The project can be altered to reduce the cost if the federal contractors don't want to be a part of it. The state needs the water. We're not going to commit suicide. We got to have it. Brown, who met 2 weeks ago with members of the Kern County Water Agency, was optimistic about the upcoming votes. I think we'll have enough funds for the project. This is an interesting issue because it's one of the things that Brown did in the middle of the drought was get us to use less. And we dropped, and this was in 2015, I think we dropped our water usage by something like 20%, which was amazing. You're seeing things like several cities, the city I live in, Santa Monica, started waterless urinals. So you don't need to flush water when a man uses a urinal. So those things save about 40,000 gallons of water a year. So the city of Santa Monica said all public men's rooms have to have those, which saves millions of gallons of water just in one city. So the whole city should be doing that. We also should be collecting all of our water. I've talked about this before. So one solution, though, and this is another article that was submitted by Faye, was could Los Angeles design its way to water independence? And a pair of architects are re-envisioning the city's relationship with water, starting with storm runoff. This is a big issue because right now Los Angeles has this old archaic system. When it rains, it goes in these giant water aqueducts, and most of it just gets poured out to the ocean. So they built what they call a urban runoff facility near the Santa Monica Pier that captures a lot of that water. They should be building those all over the place. So what they do, and I'll tell you about this couple in a second, and what their solution is, and it's basically they're going back to ancient stuff from the Roman era on how to capture water and distribute it, because that's a big part of it. We're not capturing enough of our water supply, and everyone should be doing this. If you had a home, I would put a rain barrel. You can buy barrels and just connect them to your drains. I've talked about this before. So this couple, Arnold and his wife, for this past 17 years, have also been an architect. They've worked to change that attitude of just turn on your tap water and there's water. Through a small nonprofit research and design firm called the Arid Lands Institute, the Arnolds are creating a massive hydrologic model of Greater Los Angeles, part of a broad urban design initiative they hope will fundamentally change the way Western cities deal with water. Raised in the outskirts of Denver, Peter Arnold first became fascinated by water through the lens of a large format camera. He married his wife, and they were visited New Mexico, rural New Mexico, to learn about ancient acequia systems introduced by early Spanish settlers that they still use today. These communally managed irrigation ditches not only distribute water democratically among farmers, they include plans for water scarcity. That's the thing. We got this big rainstorm last winter, and all the aqueducts got filled back up. Everything's good. It's like, well, this is going to happen again. There's going to be another drought again. We're in a desert. California's a desert. And what they saw, and this is an ancient system, they saw viability and they saw local participation and everything that local systems they don't do, right? So what the current systems are, they rely on, since it rarely rains in Southern California in the winter, in the summer, we get a lot of rain in the winter. At the higher altitudes, we get snowpack, so when the snow melts, that's how we rely on our water, right? So if we don't have a wet winter, we don't get a lot of snow, then there's a problem. So what they would do is then without the snow, we don't have the water, right? And then when it does rain, as I said, it just goes into the Pacific Ocean. So what this system is talking about, it's a lengthy article and I'll put it on here, is including this system, and I'll go into the detail what it is, that captures more water and distributes it, right? It's a very similar thing we've talked about with the electricity grid in America needs to be overhauled. And we can capture all of this wind and solar, but we just need an updated system to distribute it. As I've said, there is enough wind power just in the Dakotas to give America 60% of its energy needs, right? So if we captured the majority of the rainwater when it came, we wouldn't have these droughts, or they wouldn't be as severe. So here's the system here. The Arnolds envisioned an entirely different approach, something more local and more sponge-like. The key to their plan is a digital mapping tool they dubbed HAZEL, after the wood used in traditional divining rods. Using geospatial data, HAZEL exposes the landscape's hidden hydrology. Right now, it's looking at the San Fernando Valley, showing precisely street by street, lot by lot, where 92,000 acre-feet of stormwater could be best captured, stowed, and treated to offset the city's dependence on piped-in water. This is the key. And this is the kind of stuff that goes, I talk about voting with your dollars, but also I talk about being self-sustaining. If I wasn't in an apartment complex, I would capture the water. And I would do that if I lived in a home or even a condo. I would capture the water. It's doable, and use it for your lawn, use it for your food, your garden. And so my point then is, this is something you should be petitioning your local lawmakers to do, because it's a serious, especially if you live in the West or the South, where droughts can be bad. I mean, look at what happened to Georgia 5-6 years ago. They had horrible drought. So it's something to pay attention to. It's also something like, again, I've talked about a pipeline system instead of for oil, for water. So in the north, when they get all this water, the storms, the snow in the winter, and then when it melts in the spring, they have flooding. We could capture that water. We could distribute it. We could distribute it to the southern states. But this is something that we need to do on a state and a local level. And it's very complicated. But this article about what this couple is proposing is really cool. It's so funny. So many of the answers are just very simple. And if everybody captured the water and the government and the city captured it and just filtered it, we wouldn't have to pipe in water and drain the Colorado River and all that other stuff. So I thank you so much, Faye Adelstein, for submitting this article. It's these articles rather, they're very in depth, and they deserve you guys to read them through as well. And I'm open to any suggestions that you guys have, or anything your local municipalities have done or should be doing to help address this problem. So thank you so much for being a Patreon supporter. And these are the kind of stories that they're not talking about this in the mainstream media, because the big corporations are buying their ad time and they don't want to do this kind of stuff. So you guys are awesome. Thank you for supporting the show.